Hey everyone, it is Thursday. More importantly, it is Thursday at 8 a.m. And that means in our expert series, we bring back Matt Seamus. How you doing, Matt?
I am doing as well as any of us, Michael.
That little hesitation there is like,
How are
oh
you?
my, oh, and I'm doing great. I know we're going through some interesting times in the market. Uh, we, Something I keep telling people is the unfortunate truth. The only way through this is to get to the bottom. And we are closer to the bottom today than we were yesterday. And you know, I invested during 9/11. I invested during the dot-com crash. I invested in '08. And frankly, I know that messy markets are where money is made. Um, so I think what you and I should do today, Matt, because you and I actually both live in the Silicon Valley. We are both in Santa Clara County, who has
Yep.
made some interesting choices. Um, why don't we talk about how this thing has kind of impacted us and maybe our friends and network? Because we could talk about the market and all that stuff. It's kind of too general. Why don't, at least for this episode, this one time, let's break this down for the Santa Clara County and talk about what's going on in our home lives.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds good.
All right. Have you or your wife made any kind of adjustments and things that you were doing or not? And then I'll answer after you.
Yeah, we have it. In fact, for what it's worth, last night, when there's been a series of things that have happened as responses to the coronavirus outbreak. And so lots of events are getting canceled, for instance. Lots of are changing their policies to accommodate, cancellations and things like that. But the NBA announcing that they were indefinitely postponing the rest of the season for whatever reason last night to me was kind of a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt like that was a big move from a big, honestly, global organization that has some really meaningful effects. And it kind of, last night, I felt like, okay, this is, it just took another notch deeper for me personally.
Yeah.
So my wife and I yesterday really in earnest started talking about what changes we're personally going to be making. And it mostly revolves around our kids.
Mm-hmm.
And, because a couple things. One, they're a top priority for us, of course. But two, they are walking cesspools of germs. And so, and they come in contact with so many different things and people, and everything goes in their mouths, and it's
Yeah.
difficult to keep them, clean. So we're just reconsidering really lots of different gatherings, get-togethers, anytime where we are going to be near or around a crowd or a bunch of people. My brother, we were going to go get together with my brother and some family this weekend in San Carlos, which we're not going to do anymore. We're just kind of taking precautions to try and limit, I guess, our interaction with people.
Mm-hmm.
And because that's really what it comes down to, I think, is limiting kind of direct contact with people, because this thing spreads so quickly.
Yeah.
And even if you only get a minor cold or you get sick, but not really, nothing more than a kind of general sickness from it, you're still potentially spreading it to many other people. So it's actually, for me personally, it's less about us. It's a little bit more about doing maybe the right thing for everyone else and attempting not to spread this thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've made some family decisions. So Olivia, my wife, is in that category that, if she gets it, she's at high risk, right? Which means, 10% above, rates, right? We know that most young folks that are healthy, blah, 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 you just skate through it unscathed. Olivia, unfortunately, happens to be in that category that, it's a little more severe. So we've made some tough decisions going back a couple of weeks now. First and foremost, it's pretty well known that I'm a season ticket to the Warriors. It was a lifetime goal of mine. We did that this year. It sucks that they're so terrible. But I have been either selling or giving away my tickets now for a month. We haven't been to a game in over a month because, again, we just didn't want to be around 20,000 people that we just don't know, didn't want to touch, those kinds of things. And so that's one thing. Second thing is I was I was going to be interviewed by one of my heroes, Tom Ferry, yesterday. And originally I planned to fly down there. And again, 3 weeks ago, we're like, ugh, and then 2 weeks ago, I'm like, okay, that's it. I'm not getting on an airplane, which hurt, right? I wanted to go meet this guy. I've followed him for so long, and he is truly one of my heroes with what he does. And I wanted to simply shake his hand, right? And say, thank you for the motivation and, just generally being a good dude. And I didn't cancel. I said, let's do Zoom. And then, other things came up and it just didn't work out. So I canceled a moment that I would have likely remembered the rest of my life because of this. We're not going anywhere. We're already practicing what's now called social distancing. Olivia and I really haven't been out other than a walk in our neighborhood. We haven't gone to a restaurant. We haven't gone anywhere in probably 10 days. And unfortunately, this is what everybody should be doing, right? The quickest way through this is to follow what South Korea did, not Italy, right? Italy thinks it's a big flu, and now they're getting crushed. And unfortunately, most of their deaths are because their health system is overwhelmed and they're making life or death decisions, which are never fun. South Korea decided to try to do social distancing. And yes, it will last longer, but the severity will be lower. And, frankly, more people will live because you have the capacity in healthcare. So we are making those decisions personally, because again, I have no concern personally. I'm very healthy. I run all the time. So I figure my lungs are as strong as they could be. But oh my God, if I caught this and I gave it to Olivia, it could wreck me. Right. So, those are the kinds of things you need to think about. Just because you're a 22-year-old and you're bulletproof doesn't mean everybody you circle with is bulletproof. So check yourself, spend some more time at home, go learn a skill, right? Learn a language, learn some music. Let's take this opportunity to better ourselves, and we will get out of this and we'll be stronger and all of that. So I have made some strategic decisions. I have not done things that I have looked forward to for years, if not decades of my life. So, I've drastically changed, what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. I mean, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
And interesting. Well, I was I was in an emergency room yesterday. My mother-in-law, unfortunately, is in the hospital. And I was in an emergency room visiting her yesterday, and it was concerning. It was concerning. There were people overflowing in the hallways. Now, I cannot say how much or whether or not this had anything to do with coronavirus. I assume that some of the patients there were being treated for a sickness that may end up being coronavirus, but I don't know. But the emergency room was very, very full, and people were waiting, honestly, days to get admitted. And so for me, that was a little bit eye-opening. I did not expect it. I had been, up until this point, toning down in my own head the situation. And so I think I had a little bit of an awakening yesterday. So thanks for sharing what you've done. And it's time. I think it's time for us to follow suit.
Yeah. So that's, again, right. One of the things I do on this channel is I'm an open book. So again, folks, I've made decisions, for the betterment of, my family that I'm looking forward to forever. So that should tell you something. So let's talk about Santa Clara County, right? Somewhere we both live. I don't know if you saw this, but I think it was Tuesday. They came out and said no crowds over 1,000. Did you hear this?
Yeah, I think I saw that headline.
Yeah. So basically what they said is no crowds over 1,000, which really impacts the sporting events and the conferences, right? So that directly impacted, again, we're talking Tuesday, right? And today's Thursday. It might've been Monday. It doesn't matter. So that immediately impacted 3 games for the San Jose Sharks, right? So they have to play in front of no fans. It affects March Madness, specifically the women's West bracket, right, where Stanford is being played. So again, Santa Clara, I think it was the first county. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure they said that did that. San Francisco has since followed suit. Seattle has come on board. So, we are trying to practice this social distancing. We need to do it in mass. We need to, we need to get uncomfortable for a couple of weeks. It would be so nice if the, top 3, 4 leaders in our government federally would stop being nasty to each other, get in a room and figure out a way to help Main Street. Because what's different today versus '08 is '08 was a financial crisis where if you took care of the top 50, maybe 60, you could get through it, right? Guarantee the debt of them and blah, blah, blah. Today, it's a Main Street problem. And Main Street, numerically speaking, is a lot of sort of small and medium businesses. And there are a lot of them that are going to go bankrupt. They're just, they just don't have the demand. I've talked about Castro Street in Mountain View being a ghost town. We went out the other day I had to mail something, and it was just, oh my God, where is everybody? Right. So, it's this is going to get worse before it gets better. But as I opened, every day that goes by, I'm getting encouraged, because again, the only way out of this is to get through it, and to get through it, you got to hit the bottom. So, that's kind of what I'm thinking about these days.
What are you doing in your day-to-day business? And has anything changed for you just day-to-day?
Yeah. So in my business, I am, so mainly I'm doing residential today, because I've been very clear. I think multifamily is grossly overpriced. I frankly look like a genius for selling a third of our apartments in the last 9 months, right? Raise our cash, no problems. Even if this goes on all year, we're fine. Which I don't think it will go on year, but just hey, another shout out to Zuber. He called another thing, right? I wrote about it in the book that there's 2 other occasions where we got it right. We got this one right too. But in my business, I am getting ready to buy more single family homes this year than I did in 18 and 19, which I was pretty busy in both those years. I fully expect to buy more houses this year than the last 2 years combined, because here's the magic. Single family homes. What is the hardest thing for investors to do? It's find a motivated seller, right? That's where your low offers get accepted. That's where you can negotiate seller financing. That's where you get creative. And I firmly believe that this thing will pass in less than 4 to 6 months. So I'm going to use this window of time to stack the inventory. And because why can I say that so confidently? It's because my number one competitor, owner occupant buyers, are going to freaking disappear. Sellers are not going to be willing to have open houses, right? So they're not going to sell. Listings drop. Owner occupant buyers who were thinking about buying, they're not going to buy, because the last thing they want to do is risk their capital to get something. So what's left? You're left with listings that have to sell, and have to sell equals motivated seller. I expect to buy a lot of stuff that I will keep for years this year. So again, I'm very excited. I believe we will get through this. We will get through this calendar year. It will get worse before it gets better, but I buy below the median. I'll just buy a little bit cheaper. I rent affordable housing. No problem. Section 8 doesn't care if it's coronavirus. They keep paying the bills on the first. My checks will show up on the first, no problem. So I really feel bad saying this, but it's the truth. I feel very excited about what's going on this year, because a messy and sloppy market is where I have made millions of dollars. And I will do it once again this year. And 2 years from now, people will call me lucky. And, I'll be like, okay, yeah, I was lucky. Sure. Okay. Whatever you say. And just smile all the way to the bank.
So what's the median home price in Fresno or Bakersfield or
Fresno? 260.
260. Okay. So let's imagine there's a house that's was listed last week at 260.
Okay.
And a month from now, that seller is going to be pretty motivated.
Yep.
What do you expect to be able to buy that house for?
So let's just be very clear. I would only buy it if, so let's just put all the numbers out there, right? So a 260 house, I'm going to be getting $1,500 a month rent, maybe $1,600 a month rent. At 260, that house doesn't cash flow, right? Given normal down payments and taxes and insurance and all, it just doesn't cash flow, right? So even in a hot market, I would write 215, 218 probably, hoping to get it for 225 or less. But I would lose 99% of the time, because the owner occupant buyer will come and pay 265. But as I teach in my courses, I talk about all the time, I know my market, I know my numbers, and I would write it at 215, maybe 218. today, or actually I shouldn't say today, April. Let's be clear. Prices are sticky on the way down, right? It's called price elasticity. I'm so glad I was an economics major in college, right? Prices are sticky on the way down. So I wouldn't write that offer in March. I will write it in April, and probably around tax day, April 15th, because that's when I'm going to see motivated sellers going, oh my God, oh my God. So I would probably want to write that. I would probably write that offer for 160, hoping to get it for 175, because I don't need all of them. I only need 20. So I'm going to write 50 to 80 to 100 offers at 150 or 160, hoping to get them for 175. Some of those people are going to tell me to F off. Great. You're not my seller. But some people are going to be, you know what? This is my mom's house. I live on the East Coast. I don't want it. 150 grand's more than I have now. Take it.
Yeah.
Be like, score. So it's just going to happen. I see it coming plain as day. It's exactly what happened in 2010. I keep telling people 2020 and 2010 are not the same thing. Residential financing today is stronger than I've ever seen it. 4% interest rates, 30-year fixed, no stupid loans. So it's a great time to be a residential buyer, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
Yeah, and you just said you're gonna look for an $85,000 to $100,000 discount to the listing price. That's
and it will still rent for $1,500, right? That rent's still there because people aren't going to buy. There'll be more renters. That's what people don't get. In 2010, nobody was buying. Well, they still need shelter. It's still uncomfortable to live outside. Right. Even if unemployment goes from 3 to 7, that's still 93% of the people working. Right. And oh, by the way, a house is a hell of a lot easier to partner up and live with multiple family members than an apartment, right?
Yeah.
So people, affordable housing, right, below the median is the safest investment you can make, especially in a small window of time where there's fear and scariness. I am so excited. I know my market. People know me. I have a network. I will buy more houses this year than the last 2 years combined. That's what I think.
Okay, that's awesome. Can you share with me how you are loading the gun to be able to do that? We talked, I think, a little bit about this last week, but I know you have a personal cash pile, but we all know that only goes so far. You need to rely on other, investors to have liquidity and bring money to a deal. Help me understand how you're kind of loading the gun, and then specifically how you are thinking about the fact that the wealth effect from the stock market declining, call it 20-25% in the last week is going to affect any potential investors.
Yeah, so those are both very good questions. So let's do the second one first, right? So one of the fears out there for private money, people are raising private money or syndications, all of that, is people are just going to say no because they're afraid. So what you need to do is you need to over communicate with your lenders. And I may change my lending program, right? The best time for me to raise money was actually in 2010 when the money market account broke the buck. You remember that when they only could return 97 cents of a dollar invested and everybody freaked out. It's because people got scared. They went to cash, like real cash. And then they were getting zero, an eighth of a quarter or whatever it was in the bank. And people saw what I was doing because I'm going to be, that's why this channel is here. I document what I'm doing every day. And people are like, you know what? I want to be a part of that. I don't know the market. I'm still working, blah, blah, blah. But I've got, hundreds of thousands of dollars in a freaking checking account.
Right.
What should we do? Well, you know what? I said, why don't I pay you 10%? 10% interest only. And let's do a 10-year loan. So, and oh, by the way, I'll show you the numbers and the rent so you can see that I can hold it that long, right? Because this too shall pass. And people were ecstatic, but again, it comes from being known and talking about what you're doing and having a circle of friends, that have some money put away. So that was very good. What happened this last time I raised money is people wanted a piece of the upside because I didn't keep everything. I sold some stuff. So I created this 6 and 20 program. I'm like, well, okay, I'm only going to pay you 6% interest because I'm only going to hold this for a little while and I don't want to have a big debt service. But what I'll do is I'll give you 20% of the upside. So we get a full audit report at the end. And oh, by the way, they get 20% of the profit. So you need to create a program that is meaningful to individuals because there are a lot of people that have RSU or stock wealth in the Silicon Valley. My guess is most of them will capitulate and go to cash and they will want something to do. So I'm loading the gun with people that I've done multiple transactions with. Let's just say I have $500,000. I will use that to buy, but then I will recycle that with investors. So I'll always have that $500,000 operating capital. And yeah, I mean, just over communicate, put a structure in place that leans towards the investor of your shoe, constantly communicate with 30-day updates. Like, I haven't done a private loan in 6 months because I didn't find enough deals and I could just keep my capital going. If I'm going to do more transactions in 2020 than I did in 18 and 19, I'm going to have to use private money. That's just has to happen. So already communicating with people that have loaned me before.
Yep. Cool. Thanks for sharing that.
And then I forgot the first part of the question. There was a first part.
It was, I think I forgot it too, but that was really more what I was getting at.
Yeah, there you go. That's what you wanted to know.
No, it's, I'm just curious, and that's all helpful. Tell me about lending and refinancing, and how are you thinking about this, if at all?
So we're talking lending, meaning bank lending, right?
Yes, I'm sorry, bank lending.
Yeah. So again, I play in the residential space. If you happen to have a home, in the next couple of months, you should probably look at refining, at least most of you, even if you have like 4.5%. If you can get a 3, anytime you can get below 1% below your last interest rate, generally speaking, it's a pretty good idea to do a refinance, recast the loan, payment goes down, you're all good. I don't know. I'm not a big take money out of your primary guy. I saw too many people get hurt with that. But hey, if you can do a refinance, spend 4, 5, 6, 7 grand and lower your payment $400 a month forever, or for 30 years or whatever, probably worth thinking about. So if you own a home, I guess most of us will do that. Just look at the numbers, right? Refinances were up 469% week on week. They're up so much that rates have gone up.
Yeah.
They've gone up, right?
Yeah.
So just realize if the Fed does what I think they're going to do next week, which go to zero, I think they're just going to whack it a full percentage point. Rates will go down. You'll have to wait your time to get refied, but probably a good idea. If you're a real residential landlord, like I talk about and teach all the time, you should get ready to do a deal, right? This is going to be scary. You're going to be able to buy it. You're going to be able to get good cash flow, and you'll get the upside. Why? Again, that's why I'll be buying it, whatever we said, 160 instead of 260. Because you're going to get that artificial gain, because this will pass. This will not kill America. The world will not end. Yes, perhaps, unfortunately, millions of people could die. That's kind of the worst case scenario, but most of us will still be here, as harsh as that sounds. And we still need shelter, and 90% of us will still be employed, and blah, 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 blah. So if you're looking to get your first, like I talk about all the time, get 4, it's time to get your first one. You need to learn your market. What I tell people now is prices are sticky on the way down, and you're going to work from home. So freaking A, go buy my course, learn your market for 30 days, and get ready to execute April, May, June, or July. Get your property. You're going to look like a genius. So many people call me lucky. It annoys me. Oh, you were lucky to get out of houses in 08. Oh, you were lucky to get all these. Oh, you were lucky to sell your apartments. No, I look at my freaking market every day. Yeah. And I can see when the masses are getting stupid. And when they get stupid, I go the other way. The masses are about to be afraid. So go buy something. That's what I tell people.
Okay, so walk me through your thoughts on, let's say I am in contract.
Yep.
Right now. And the process started, we kind of agreed to a price maybe before the whole coronavirus became a major issue. And so now we have agreed to a price, but maybe I have an opportunity as a buyer to negotiate. Maybe the leverage is now in my court a little bit. How would you advise me in that situation?
So I'm assuming we're referring to multifamily in this case.
No. Let's use an example of single family. Let's say I'm buying my first single family investment property.
Yeah. Well, listen, again, if you're following what I'm talking about, you were buying a good deal. So let's separate it, because if you were one of those people that was chasing Cleveland or chasing some other market because your brother's next door neighbor's doorman did it, you shouldn't have done that deal anyway. So get out. But if
let's say I did. What I'm getting at is, do you think that maybe my position of leverage as the buyer has changed and I might be able to negotiate a little bit more out of the deal? Or do you think no? Do you think?
It sort of depends on where you are in the contract. Again, if you've done your homework in your market and you're buying a good or great deal today, close the transaction. Um, if you could get another 1 or 2 or 3% off because you want to be that person and retrade and grind people down, karma's a bitch, right? Something will come back and bite you. If you were doing a good or great deal, like I talk about all the time, just close the transaction. This little air pocket here, no big deal. If you were stretching to buy a primary residence right now, so not an investment home, if you were stretching to buy something, man, I'd cancel that transaction in a heartbeat. That this is not the time to stretch. If I was buying something above the median, I would cancel immediately. Again, you got to remember what I talked about: affordable housing, below the median, cash flow. If you're buying a 6% yield in a 6% market, good for you. You're going to survive, right? Because people most. I've been here before. They will just invite their sister and their sister and their kid to come live in the spare bedroom. People
Right.
will pay rent, right? You will not have
Right.
100% unemployment, right? So I would close the transaction. If you had done your homework and you're convinced you got a good or great deal, close the deal, because this too shall pass.
Yeah. Awesome. I love it.
Yeah. But you want to talk about apartment buildings? Because that might be a different answer.
Well, we're kind of in, yeah, I mean, no, I think first of all, I think I'm generally aligned with your answer. And I agree that we don't, you can, if you try and trade people down for a minor gain without real justification, simply leaning on the fact that you might have a little bit of leverage, that's not a great way to operate. You're just not going to get it. You're not going to have a great reputation. It's not going to be a good long-term plan.
Yeah.
Very few people, I think, operate that way long-term and do well.
Yeah.
In multifamily, right now, debt is a huge bank debt, or what I'll just call conventional debt in whatever capacity, bank or credit union or whatever, is a huge factor, right? It's, maybe 65 to 80% of the purchase price. And so debt becoming cheaper as a buyer makes a deal more attractive than even when you got it into contract. We are seeing that across the board. We have 4 properties in contract right now. So from a long-term perspective, we still think the fundamentals are strong. And we think that the market right now is trading based on fear as opposed to based on fundamentals. Yes, of course, agree with you. There will be pain. No question. There will be real pain. But I just personally don't see it as, at this point, as pain that is sustained for a long period of time. I think it's measured in months. Mm-hmm. So to me, that means fundamentals remain strong generally. Mm-hmm. And we're getting a discount on the debt. Yeah. So the deal becomes actually more attractive. So the deal became more attractive without us having to trade the price.
Yeah.
And so that's actually where we are seeing things. We're going to refinance 2 properties. And we are also going to consider probably 1 or 2 properties that we do have in contract. We're going to be even more aggressive and conservative in terms of making sure we are absolutely comfortable with those deals before we close on them.
For sure.
I would rather, and with the deals that we do, they can be relatively thin margins. So what we want to make sure that we're doing is we want to be able to hold a property through a downturn, even if that means we're returning less than we expected to investors. If we're able to cover our debt service and we're able to maintain ownership of the property, that's still a win. Remember, people are investing in real estate because it is on a risk-adjusted basis a much better return than the stock market, and it's generally safer. Yeah. And so we want to absolutely make sure that we are preserving principal as the number one priority. And then the second priority is getting a good yield,
Mhm.
but we have to absolutely maintain and preserve the principal that we have. So that's kind of how we're looking at it. Um, I think multifamily sellers are still going to feel like, and they have the leverage because of the demand for multifamily is still epic
Mhm.
in its strength. So I just don't see the motivation that you talked about
Mhm.
being there for as many multifamily sellers.
Mhm.
I think the unique situations where they're extremely distressed, maybe you have a property that is undergoing, maybe you had an issue and it's largely vacant. That might be a more motivated seller.
Mm.
But someone that has 95% occupancy and they've made a couple $1,000,000 in the last few years, they're going to be interested in selling, but they're not going to be very motivated. And so therefore, I just don't see as a buyer having a lot more leverage today, even given the turmoil in the markets.
Yeah, again, I think it's amazing how these complexities, single family versus multifamily is kind of the same thing. We both think this passes this year, right? I think that's fair to say, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Second, we both see some short-term pain. Totally get it. And third, we're it sounds like we're both going to do business this year, right? We're not running away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
I think that's what people need to hear. Yes, there will be short-term pain. You're an idiot if you think this is just a flu. I mean, come on. Um, Anyways, we don't need to go down that path. The fact is, we're going to be deploying some more capital in this market, and I think capital deployed this year will outsized perform. I don't know how to say that. You're going to get a lot more bang for your buck if you buy this year than the last 2 years, and that's why I will once again buy more houses than I did the last 2 years. And 2 years from now, people will call me lucky. So that's what I'm doing. So, any closing thoughts as we wrap this one up?
No, I think it was great. I appreciate hearing your perspective. I'm going to go put my head down the rest of the day and try and figure out how to make sure that we are positioning ourselves, in the right way, and that we close on the things that we want to close on, and we move away from things that that are a little bit too risky, and then we just maintain this kind of really tight target on what we want to achieve.
Very cool. All right, Matt. Well, this has been a lot of fun. It always is. And I look forward to our conversation next week.